Hi everybody, and welcome to another expedition. We're about to enter Bigfoot country, and for the next 2 days we're going to be taking a passive approach to finding Bigfoot. Now what does that mean, a passive approach? You see a lot of shows where people go out there, and they have one that's on TV now, and they're using the most expensive equipment that money can buy, and they're not finding them. Why? Because they're looking for them. So from our research, it seems like a lot of the reports of Bigfoot come from people who are just out in the woods camping, who are out fishing, who are out hunting. They're not necessarily looking for Bigfoot, they're just out enjoying the wilderness, and they come upon him, or he comes upon them. So that's kind of the approach we're going to take. We are going to be looking for tracks and evidence of Bigfoot up in these mountains, as there have been a lot of reports. But at the same time, we're not going to be actively pursuing him in hopes that we can get an encounter with him. Well, we arrived at our campsite, and allegedly there's supposed to be a fire ring.
Supposedly a picnic table and a fire ring, but you know, on the site they don't actually give you a whole lot of information. They make it look like the campsite is right off the side of the road. They don't give you any information on the road itself. They don't tell you that it's this steep and treacherous and gravel road that winds around and around and around. So you really don't know what you're getting into until you get into it, which is kind of fun and adventurous, but at the same time, you know, like I say, you just don't know what you're getting. Now I do see a picnic table around the curve here. It's a very rocky surface, so we'll have to be careful that we don't actually, like, you know, twist our ankles and stuff in the middle of the night on these rocks. This is cool.
This is pretty cool.
This is going to be scary.
Yeah, and the Bronco is back there, so it's not... Well, it depends on what's chasing you, I guess.
That's true. It could seem like a great distance.
But yeah, we got a pretty nice fire pit here, that's for sure. And it came equipped with a poker stick.
Yep.
Okay, a picnic table, and there's a ledge.
There is a ledge. Have to be careful we don't go the wrong direction in the middle of the night.
Not a straight ledge by any means, but it's a ledge down there.
Yeah. Wow. I think we're up on the side of a mountain. I think that's what it is, like overlooking the slope down.
It felt like the side of a mountain driving up here.
It did.
So the place that we're at is actually, I don't know if we mentioned it, Weiser State Forest.
Yeah.
And we looked up because we were curious. There's literally only 6 or 7 campsites in the entire state forest.
Yeah, and this Haldeman tract, they call it, of that state forest.
In the Haldeman tract. So we looked up just to see if there's anyone else camping in any of those campsites.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're possibly the only ones in this entire state forest.
There was one other one that looked like it was going to be occupied, but the occupation was, it was on a different road. So it's not like they're even going to have to drive down this road that we drove down to be able to get to their campsite. So I think we're pretty much out on our own, like no civilization whatsoever.
Well, let's get to setting up camp, and then we'll talk a little bit about the plethora of sightings.
Yes.
Up here in Weiser State Forest. We got our camp set up, and I have to say, I'm liking this Coleman tent. We highlighted this and we showed the unpackaging of it in a previous video. The darkroom technology tent. The last 3 nights we slept in it. Came down here from Francis Slocum, and beautiful night's sleep. Nice airflow throughout the tent. No daylight came in that thing. I woke up at 11 o'clock in the morning. Did not realize how late it was.
Yeah, and it was actually extremely waterproof too. We didn't have a lick of water in there except for whatever we might have tracked on the bottoms of our feet into it. So we were quite impressed with that. And hoping that it stays that way for a long time to come.
Absolutely. And we have our, it's not an Easy Up, it's a knockoff brand, but we have it set up here with our chairs and some firewood and the Coleman stove, which I'm going to highlight a little bit later on because I've used this on several camel trips so far. I'm very satisfied with it. So we'll highlight that when it comes time to make some coffee later on. But quite a campsite. I gotta say, it's a very nice campsite.
It is.
At the same time, there's somewhat unsettling about being up here away from everybody.
Yeah, I'm quite nervous about it. I mean, just because the road we came in on was a one-way road. It doesn't look like two people or two cars could fit side by side. And then at the same time, the other end of the road where it comes out is all blocked off with a gate. So there's one way in here and there's one way out of here. And given that this place has probably been here for a long time, we don't know if the locals, crazy local people, might know about this place.
Not that the locals are crazy by any means, but if they are.
But some of the ones that might be crazy could come up here and really screw with us, because where can we go? I mean, that's a drop-off. Like,
yeah, we learn to scale rocks pretty quick if we have to.
You're not going that way.
But I have to say, when we were setting up the tent, something a little strange. I'm not saying this is evidence of anything, but I'm just highlighting it. I was around the back side of the tent, and I smelled this smell. And there's often a bad smell that's associated with Bigfoot.
Right.
Now, this didn't seem to resemble that smell. Maybe it did. What I smelled, it smelled more like the mushroom farms do.
Right.
Down in Kennett Square.
Yeah.
You're driving through there at a certain time, around that area of Kennett Square in Pennsylvania, you can smell the mushroom farm sometimes. And that's what it smelled like to me.
Yeah, it's a poopy smell. Definitely a poopy smell.
Is that what they say Bigfoot smells like?
No, they say like sulfur, sewage, kind of a mixture of different nasty odors. But the mushrooms down in Kennett Square are definitely like a poopy smell. I think it's actually the fertilizer that they put on the mushrooms that makes it smell that way.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Coming down from Francis Slocum State Park, we wanted to get here and set up camp, scope out the area, but we still had plenty of time. So we didn't stop for supplies. Now, I'm not sure how close the nearest town is, but we've got to go into the nearest town and hopefully find a place that we can get some supplies and some food.
And hopefully get back before it gets to be too incredibly dark, because that road was treacherous.
Yes, yes. But I do have to say, one good thing about the Bronco, not only did it take the road pretty well, it also has these great fog lights on it.
Yes.
The fog lights will light up off the side of the road, so you can see deer standing there, Bigfoot, whatever you may be looking for.
Crazy locals.
Right. But right now, let's get down into the nearest town we can find and get some supplies.
Yep.
So they do have quite a selection of lanterns here, and I always go for the Coleman lanterns. Got 400 lumen and 800 lumen. But what I'm gonna go for, because the 800 lumen, though it is battery operated, it's $24.98, I'm gonna go for the propane lantern. 1,000 lumens, and this thing will light up the campsite. You'll be able to see what's going on in the woods around you and everything. We already have one of these, so hooking up 2 of these things tonight will give us a lot of light. So how's the search going?
It's going pretty good. I'm finding pretty much everything that I need. I was just kind of stumped on chicken wings. I was thinking about getting some chicken wings, and I don't know which kind to get.
I think that's a good idea. I noticed though, before you go, you got some pine saw here. I know there was a lot of dirt around the campsite.
Yeah.
Are you planning on cleaning it, or what's the...
The rocks, not the dirt. Planning on cleaning.
You gotta have the clean rocks.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
No, actually, it's supposed to be a bear deterrent, from what I've read. You can sprinkle it around the outside of a campsite, and supposedly bears like really hate the scent of pine, which is funny because like they live out amongst the pines, right? But supposedly this kind of deters them, and so I'm taking a bottle of it. It's worth the $3 or $4 that I'm paying for it. Sprinkle it around the perimeter of the campsite and hope that maybe, you know, it kind of drives off Bigfoot as well.
I thought we were trying to find Bigfoot. Lure him into the campsite.
I don't know.
Maybe he would like the clean smell.
Like,
but...
he could tear us limb from limb in this area, and nobody would find us for probably quite a few days.
Right. That's
So.
true. That's true. So looking at the chicken wings, we got some all-natural chicken drumsticks, some chicken thighs. We want wings, though.
Yeah,
wings.
see, all down this area here.
Oh, and these are a must-have, too. We do have some of these that we picked up at the Weiss Market over there in Dallas. Dallas, Pennsylvania, that is. Problem solved. Pecan smoked.
These are amazing.
Yeah,
These are really, really good. So should we get these?
I think we should.
I think we should
And
too.
we'll see if we can cook them on the campfire. There's a little town called Elizabethville. That's not far from where we're camping in the state forest. Came down here, stopped at the Walmart, got some pizza at a place called Pizza Delights, which was pretty good. It was on point. So before we head back up into the mountains, back into Bigfoot country, there's only one thing left to do. Get the ice. It's pitch black up here in this campsite. All we can hear is this one bird, a few sounds out in the woods, probably natural sounds of things falling from the tree, nothing in a footstep pattern. But we're gonna go ahead and unbox this lantern. This is the Coleman Quick Pack lantern, 100 lumens. And I'm hoping that the bulbs, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, hoping that they're already in there. Looks like it should just open like this. There we go. You got to push in a little bit because it's got that lip on there. Okay, but it comes all boxed up here. I like how they have the foam on the side because I've had a lantern like this before that got broken from being jostled around. But it looks like we're gonna have to take this out. And this is also how you would replace these bulbs in here. So we removed all the styrofoam that was in there. Now we should simply just be able to screw this onto the bottom. And this is a quick start lantern, which is cool because the other one I have, I believe, you have to put a match up inside of there. This one, if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to turn it on. Push this button here, and there, it should light. And it'll have some fire coming out the top, which isn't normal. I'll make sure that doesn't happen, but we want to get the bulbs lit. They'll burn up a little bit when you first turn it on. And then we should be able to get this thing to give us a good bit of light. Like so. Whoops. This way, it's brighter. So it kind of illuminates the campsite pretty nice. And I have another one that I'm going to put over here down the trail a little bit to give us that extra bit of perimeter lighting so we can see if anything's approaching. So we got our camp set up, situated for the most part. It is eerie. It is eerie out here. We're on top of this mountain. You can hear some sounds off in the distance. We've got a good bit of light from the lanterns illuminating this trail coming up to our campsite. Plus, that's the way we want to go to use the bathroom if we have to, which I'm probably going to have to do before long because I feel that pizza kind of kicking me in the stomach. But first thing we're going to do is get this little inchworm off of here. Come on. Get off. There we go. Oh, he's on one of those web things. Okay, and then we're going to start the coffee. So this is a nice stove right here. I really like this one. It's quick. Just turn the knob till it turns on, basically. and it's fed by a little fuel canister that goes on the side here, butane. So it's a butane stove. I have it kind of balanced with the rock because this log is uneven. But before the night gets started, we need to heat up the coffee, because there's nothing better than percolated coffee on specifically a Coleman stove.
It is a nice fire ring, though.
It is a nice fire ring, definitely.
It is. It's got that adjustable plate at the very top, the actual grill part of it. It's adjustable, so you can lower it down, you can raise it up as high as it is, which it is right now, raised up as far as it'll go. And, you know, it gives you a good grilling surface, a good cooking surface. And things that are cooked over the fire always taste better. I don't know why, just something about that, you know, smoky taste that kind of, you know, gets into the food and, you know, infuses everything with that sort of natural flavor. And it's really, really good.
So how many Bigfoot sightings have there been in these parts?
In this particular area, now, Weiser State Forest is divided up among quite a few different tracts. And the one that we are currently at is the Haldeman tract. But if you combine all those together, I'd say there have been 3 or 4 since the early 2000s. One of them was an actual sighting. One of them was a woman that was hearing strange noises. She was camping up here at one of the campsites and started hearing some really strange noises that she couldn't identify. And evidently she knew, you know, a lot of the sounds that you would normally hear in the forest at night. So being that she couldn't identify these noises, she thought in particular that they were probably Bigfoot. And then there was somebody that was walking along and came down by a creek and found a bunch of very large footsteps in the area that they said they don't think anybody else could make besides Bigfoot. And this was another person that supposedly knew what they were talking about as far as footsteps and footprints were concerned. He knew enough to know that it wasn't like, you know, a bear that had double tracked or anything like that. So kind of an interesting thing that there's been some sightings out here, but I don't think that there's any in particular that have been, you know, people terrified at night by Bigfoot coming into camp and shaking their tent or anything, dragging their tent off or anything. So that's the good thing, is that at least we have that knowledge that it hasn't been any particular, you know, violent sightings.
So contrary to popular belief, we've talked to some who claim Bigfoot does not like music. We believe he does, especially harmonica music. We don't really have any evidence to base this belief on. There have been a lot of cases, though, where people have been around the campfire, making some noise, playing some music, maybe singing some songs, and Bigfoot came wandering out towards their campsite. Perhaps out of curiosity. Perhaps he's wondering, I don't know if he's drawn to music. I don't think it really scares him away, especially out here when he knows there's not a whole lot of people out here. He may peek his head around the corner to see what's going on. So let's see what we can do here. A little bit off there in some areas, but I don't know, perhaps Bigfoot would be inclined to come out and see what's going on here. So this is an original song. It's called I Don't Want to Poop in the Woods, which is inspired by a feeling that I have right now. I don't wanna poop in the woods. Don't wanna poop in the woods. I'd hold it if I could, but I don't know if I should. No, I don't wanna poop in the woods.
So I'm thinking what we ought to do is paint Trump 1 on one of these rocks right here before we leave. What do you think of that?
What would inspire you to want to do something like that?
I think the people would like it. I mean, that's all we saw is flags that said Trump 1 on the way up here, you know, or back the blue. You know, we could paint some of the little American flag with the blue stripe in there, you know, just to fix it up a little. Somebody obviously left us a nice walking stick or a pokey stick, you know, whatever, some bear beating stick. I don't know what it is, but it's functional for many different things, and I think we ought to just, you know, leave a little bit of a present.
Doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Yeah.
But it invokes the question, what causes one to drive out here in the middle of the woods, park, and set up a tent?
Sheer idiocy. That's pretty much what it is. No, I have to say that Jeff and I have kind of wondered since we got up here if we got it a little bit in over our heads. And the reason being, I mean, we're suburban people. Like, you know, when I grew up, it was kind of country, but, you know, it's rapidly become the suburbs where we live now. And we're not too incredibly used to deep woods camping like this. And the thing of it is, though, the thing that's more scary than the animals is the locals. You've got one road in and one road out. Like, the same way you came in is the way you got to get out. And that kind of makes me a little nervous. And the reason being because you worry that perhaps some of the local teenagers, you know, wanting to screw around, wanting to screw with people, you know, could potentially come up here looking for something to do. Although it didn't necessarily look like this was a party spot for them by any means. There was no trash in the camp at all. But you never know. I mean, it does kind of make you nervous thinking that if somebody came up here, I mean, I don't even know if anybody'd hear us yell or scream or anything, and we sure don't have very good cell service. So, I don't know. That's
very well maintained for sure. But I have to say,
it is.
I mean, you mentioned we don't do much deep woods camping, but I have to say on the contrary, we're the people that strapped backpacks to ourselves with everything we would need for 2 nights.
Right.
And wandered off the grid in Hidden Valley.
That was a little bit different because we had Dave with us. David was a little bit louder, and he kind of obscured some of the natural forest background noises that you might hear.
Right. I thought you were going to say because of his
helps.
experience, but
No.
judging by that backpack.
No, he didn't have he didn't have backpacking experience at least. But no, it's just a little unsettling when it's just you and one other person out here, and you know, I've got 6 rounds in my gun right now, and that doesn't seem like enough. Like, I'm thinking I should have brought my speed loader with another full round, because you just don't know what you're going to encounter up here. I mean, there could be like, you know, like bobcats and, you know, bears and coyotes and snakes and, again, crazy locals. I mean, there's so many different things that could come up here and, you know, maul you or murder you. That, I don't know. More ammunition sounds like a good thing.
Alright, so we got a little bit of rain coming in here. It's going down pretty good. The fire's still going. And this seems to be par with many of our expeditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we seem to get rained on quite a bit.
We do.
Up at Hidden Valley, we got rained on.
That's right.
And last time it was raining the whole weekend that we were there.
Yep.
And the thing with the rain that's crazy about it is it makes it hard to hear what's going on out around us.
It does. It does, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm one of those that would rather drown out the noise you know, and not hear what's coming, because I think that would scare the pee out of me. And then, you know, on top of it, there's lots of noises in the woods anyways, and you want to kind of drown that out, because it's just natural things like a tree limb falling or things falling off the trees. And, you know, that kind of thing, if you're jumping at every little sound, you know, it's going to make you really nervous throughout the whole night. It's better to just drown that stuff out altogether, I think.
Right, but it's definitely not better for the campfire.
No, no. But it is lightening up a little bit, you know.
It is, which is good.
Yeah.
Now I would wonder, Bigfoot himself, would he come out in the rain?
I think he probably would. And I think the reason being because they're so used to living in the natural environment that I think a little bit of rain really wouldn't dispel him from coming out. And I mean, if I was a Bigfoot, I'd come out in the rain to see what people are doing, you know, to see what the humans are doing in the rain. Like, let me just go take a look and see if these people are, you know, surviving. Like, you know, let me see what they're doing. I think that'd be more his speed.
Absolutely.
Curiosity.
Well, one good thing about the rain is it softens up the mud and the soil.
Is that a good thing?
Yes, because tomorrow, in the light of day, we'll be able to look around our campsite and see if there's any tracks in the mud.
Oh.
See what creatures or perhaps cryptids
That's true.
came to check on us, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, there's apparently a little stream that's not far from here, which would be good.
Yep.
So that I can wash my hair.
So I think I hear something walking out there in the woods. Definitely sounds like movement. Not exactly sure what it be. It could be anything.
And I did just start heating up this calzone.
That's right.
From what was that place called?
Pizza Delight.
From Pizza Delight. And maybe something out there smelled it. Grilling over that hickory wood. Yeah, I hear it. Got something on my arm here. Get off there. Let's go over the other side of the tent and shine the light and see what we see.
Go right ahead.
All right, here we go. Doing a bit of investigating here. Could be anything. Could be deer, coyotes, mountain lion, Bigfoot. Or it could be an irregular pattern of rainfall coming from some of the trees. Could even be a squirrel, because squirrels come out at 1:30 in the morning and wander around in the woods. But it seems to have stopped when I came over here.
Yeah.
I think I want to get back to this calzone. Let's take a look at this thing here. At this hickory smoked calzone. Now, I haven't sampled this yet, but from what Linda told me, it's pretty good.
It was really good.
And as we know, everything is better over the campfire.
Right.
Especially with hickory wood, because that's what Walmart sold. They had hickory wood, which is used for like smoking foods and stuff like that. I don't know if we normally use hickory wood for firewood or not, but the calzone's looking pretty good. If I was Bigfoot, I'd be coming out of the woods right now. Hear that?
Yeah, I still hear stuff moving over there.
Where's it sound like it's coming from?
Up there.
I don't hear it when I get over here.
Maybe you shining the light makes it stop moving.
All sounds quiet. Nope, there it is. It's over there. Don't see anything moving. But it does seem to only move when I turn the light down. So let's turn the light down.
Maybe a deer walking around, I'll do that.
Could be a deer, yeah, because they would stop when the spotlight hits them. I definitely don't hear it now. I gotta say, I'm not sure how good this calzone tasted at the restaurant.
Really good.
But amazing over the campfire. You can listen to the crispiness of it.
It smells good.
Mmm.
You better eat that thing. Whatever that is coming closer. Bigfoot gonna come and snatch that shit right out of your hand.
Yo, Bigfoot's gonna have a fight on his hands if he comes after his calzone. I don't condone violence against Bigfoot, but if he comes after this, there's gonna be some trouble.
Well, hopefully it's just not a bear.
Yeah, much better to be Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So we survived our first night here in Weiser State Forest. And we're getting ready to start up some breakfast. But before we do that, I just want to take a little look around here. The ground is really soft. Like I said, it's a good time to kind of explore around the campsite. And there were some interesting things we noticed last night that I'm not 100% sure what the reason is for such things. In various trees around the campsite, there's what appears to be a little reflector. You can see it in this tree right here. It's like a little... It's like a little reflector that's been stapled on there. And I'm kind of wondering what the view is like right down there from that ledge. I can hear some construction vehicles in the distance. It's amazing how sounds from the valley carry up here through the mountains. Let's go ahead and venture down here just a little ways, kind of see what we can see. And it's definitely very rocky terrain up here, that's for sure. Now with all the leaves on the ground, it's going to make it hard to see any significant footsteps or imprints. But if I can find that stream, then finding a water source is a good place to find tracks. See, if I'm not mistaken, this along here definitely looks like a trail. I see some markings on the trees. We've got quite a hill going down there. And with any luck, we're coming up on a stream right now. Ah, there it is. Not quite big enough for bathing, that's for sure. But I'm looking, if we look in, you can see as the path goes across, this would be a likely area that something would cross. Although we got kind of a cliff going up here, small cliff. But I do see something down there for sure. And I'm not saying it's a Bigfoot imprint, but it is some sort of an imprint. And there's another area up here that would be appropriate for crossing. Right here we can see some tracks. That looks like deer. We know there are deer up here. We've seen quite a few of them coming around. But let's look in the actual stream here. Here's something here. Now that's an interesting imprint. So what I need to do when I find a print like this is I need to actually mark the size of it. Now we'll often have measuring tape with us, and or a ruler that we'll lay down with it. We'll have some stuff to make casts, but this time we came with the bare necessities. So I'm going to use this quarter, and this is the quarter that has the surrender of Cornwallis on the back. Seems appropriate to use to measure Bigfoot tracks, or any other tracks for that matter. Whoop, there's something jumping around there. Just making sure it's not a danger noodle. It doesn't seem to be, but there it is. So you can see how big this track is, and the one just before it. And it almost looks like it's got claws going forward. Like this could be a bear track. Okay, so walking along the path up to the campsite, we have something else right here. Now this doesn't look like a footprint by any means. It almost looks like there was a rock there that someone took up, but we'll still take a picture of it. But it's always nice to do a little recon. Like I said, the morning after. Looking at some more possible tracks here, actually. So it looks like we have something, and this seems similar to the size of the one that was by the pond, or the little lake. What am I saying? The little stream. If you can see them there, they're very shallow footprints. Right there. And some places where the leaves were recently disturbed. Right, something was perhaps coming through. And just up the hill there, that's where our campsite is. Here we got the bacon sizzling in the pan, and the smell just trailing off into the forest, attracting all kinds of creatures that may lurk about.
Maybe bears.
Maybe bears.
Bears like bacon, don't they?
I don't think there's any living thing that does not like bacon.
That's probably true.
But the lantern held up good last night. Unfortunately, a moth got inside there, and his fate was not so good. But they did provide a lot of light. You can see how far back the other one was, illuminating the perimeter. And potentially something walking along the trail down there, crossing the water, perhaps to get a drink. So we did a little bit of surveying around the campsite. Found a few tracks. Can't say that it's anything paranormal, nothing resembling a Bigfoot anyway.
Yeah.
Possibly a bear track down there by the stream.
Right.
Or a frogman, because it kind of looked like a We're looking at night 2 up here at Weiser State Forest. And today, a little bit of issue with the battery. It's tough keeping things charged while we're up here.
Yeah.
And camera died on us. But during the day, we ended up wandering down out of the mountain, and we went and explored the town of Centralia.
Yes.
And we were able to put together a little video about that, so that'll be a separate video. Cool place.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's talk a little about last night. Anything strange with sleeping?
No, actually, you know, I have those sleep headphones that I put on. And, you know, I had those going for most of the night, so I didn't hear anything. Like, I was just dead to the world. And, but, you know, when we woke up in the morning, everything looked like it normally should. There was nothing that was moved around in the camp, which would be a telltale sign that something was out there, even in the middle of the night while you were sleeping. But, no, nothing. Nothing at all.
Yeah, and even while we were gone earlier today, when we came back, there was still the frying pan sitting here with a little bit of bacon grease in it.
Yeah, nothing had obviously
Nothing
come
disturbed
through
it.
while we were gone. Yeah.
I would have thought, if anything, Bigfoot would have came through and licked some bacon grease off the pan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll be hanging out here tonight.
Yep.
It's just starting to get dark. You can't tell, it's already pitch black in the woods.
It is. Yeah. The woods get dark quicker.
They
I've
do.
noticed, and it stays really misty and kind of humid up on top of this mountain, which I'm surprised about.
Right.
I guess it is just the mist, and you know, we've had quite a few pretty rainy days, I would say, so that may contribute to it. So
yeah,
but,
we do have a breeze coming through here, which is
do.
kind of making it hard to hear some of the sounds in the woods. Like last night, it was so still. We could hear all the sounds that were going around.
Yeah, that was a little unsettling, though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
being able to hear every little sound, and every so often a big crash would kind of scare you because something would fall, like a tree limb
Big
would
branch
fall.
breaking. Yeah. But tonight we'll be observing again, and maybe we'll try a couple wood knocks, see if we get any responses.
Yeah, yeah. Although I'm not sure you want to actually call something up here. Like that may be like, hey, come here, I'm in mating season, you know.
I don't know what that is, but it would give us the evidence we need if that does call them up here, that's for sure.
I tell you what's paranormal is the number of bugs up here.
A lot of bugs.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
Every kind of bug, too. Like, all kinds of bugs. Daddy longlegs, I've never seen so many daddy longlegs as I have here. And, you know, which I don't mind. I just grab them by one leg and fling them and stuff. But, you know, then moths. Like, there's all kinds of moths here. These beautiful pink and yellow moths. And we've taken quite a few pictures of those. There's some little weird kind of grasshoppery looking bugs that are floating around here. And beetles and caterpillars. And, I mean, just all kinds of stuff out here. So, and then gypsy moths. Every so often we get a gypsy moth that flies through, like a, you know, B-52 bomber comes through the camp.
Yeah.
But, you know, docile little bugs, you know, nothing to hurt you by any means, but still, they're kind of alarming when it's flying at your head, so.
Okay, so we got this bug here that's here visiting us. And I'm not sure what kind of bug it is, but he seems intrigued by the light. He was crawling up the tent, we shine the light on him.
And he turned around?
He turned around and looked like he's mad, like, hey, shut that light out. Oh, he's looking up here.
I mean, you may not be able to tell scale on this video, but that bug, his antennas are all of about maybe 3 inches long each.
Yeah, if I could maybe get my trusty
and he moves them around quite
quarter
well.
out here, you can kind of see. That's as close as I'm getting, but that's how big he is.
For scale. So, I was thinking about something. This is a question that's often asked when people talk about Bigfoot. Do you think he's an interdimensional creature?
No.
Why is that?
I don't think Bigfoot is as mystical as some would perceive him, as paranormal as some would perceive him. I really think that Bigfoot is a species that is out there that just has not yet been discovered. People have had encounters with him, but I don't think a specimen of Bigfoot had been brought back to a lab where scientists can study him and confirm that he does exist. I think one day they will discover hard evidence that he exists, if he exists, of course. I think they'll eventually discover hard evidence, and he'll be just like any other creature that every day they're finding new species of insects and other creatures that they never discovered before. And you'd think we'd know everything with how populated the earth is, but there's so many places that are just regions that are not heavily trafficked by humankind. And the mountains, especially the mountains where we are, there's hardly ever anyone up here, you know, and this is not even secluded compared to some places. Though yes, we are in the middle of nowhere, the only campers in however big the state forest is. And even down below, the towns settle down just before sunset. There's nobody out in the streets or anything. So you think of places that are secluded like this, and then places that are even more secluded, that have even less people, and some places, that areas of woods that people have probably never even been through. There's plenty of places for him to hide out there and for him to exist. I just think he hasn't quite yet been discovered by people that are credible enough, or I should say the scientific community perhaps. Some credible people have seen him and experienced him, but for them to say he exists, scientists need to have some evidence, some solid evidence. And I think one day they will get that if he exists, and he will no longer be paranormal. But I don't think there's anything mystical about him. What about you?
I don't know. I think that Bigfoot, there's a lot of mystery that surrounds it. And I think that, personally, I kind of have this leaning toward the idea of him being a Gigantopithecus, and this creature that maybe had survived the... the bugs are all over us. Maybe this creature that had survived the Ice Age, or, you know, something that's just kind of left over from a bygone era. And it's funny, though, because I think he's much more intelligent than people seem to give him credit for. I think the Native Americans probably gave him credit for being that intelligent. And I think that they understood that this was something that was... had a civilization and a society just like we do. And I don't really put it past the government to have found evidence of UFOs or of you know, of Bigfoot existing and to try to cover it up. And the reason I say that is because there are a number of stories that I've heard where Bigfoots have been either somebody's crashed into them with their car, and were killed on impact, and police officers would come and they would rope off the scene, and they would swear to silence the people that were involved in the incident, and they would haul away the body. There's also that story, I don't know if anybody's looked it up, but it's a fascinating story about a train back in the 1800s, late 1800s, that was leaving a particular area, and it was riding down the tracks, and it accidentally ran into or came upon this small, what looked like to them a juvenile Bigfoot that was out in the middle of the railroad tracks. And when they came up to this thing, they kind of surprised it. It woke up. It tried to scale up a cliff, and some of the guys jumped off the train to go after it. And when it was going up this cliff, it actually fell off of the cliff and knocked itself out again, out on the railroad tracks. So they gathered the creature and put it on this train, took it out to the next railroad station, the next one down the line, and kept it there in some kind of a post office or something until they were able to figure out what to do with it. Now, the story is that this thing was put on a ship that was sent back to England, because at the time, England had the only universities and the only places that were, I guess, you know, with enough people that were educated to study this thing and figure out exactly what it was. At the time, it was still alive. Some people theorized that perhaps it died at sea under bad conditions, and they just kind of pushed it over. Other people believe that it made it all the way back to Great Britain, and that it was actually kept over there and studied for a while, but that they've just kept things silent. Now, you understand the ramifications of believing that there's a creature out there just as intelligent as we are, living out in the middle of the woods, that doesn't want anything to do with human society. And it makes you understand, when you think about that, why they would want to stay hidden, but also why the government would want to cover them up. Because they don't want anybody to have any idea that there is something else out there that is as intelligent as us, that may have a society, a well-formed society like we do. And you know, even looking back at some of the stories about John Smith, there were some stories that some of these guys told that were perfect evidence that something large and something hairy and some great creature was living out there, when they first came to America and started exploring. So I'm not sure it's a mystical thing. I kind of remain open to that because, you know, who knows? We only use a small portion of our brains. Who knows what portion of their brain the Bigfoot are able to use? Maybe they're able to use a larger portion of their brains than we can, and maybe that portion actually includes a part that is, you know, more tuned into telepathy and to different types of psychic ability than we are. It's. I remain open to it. Like I say, I don't necessarily think that's absolutely true, or that it's not true, but there's certainly a reason why.
Whoa.
You're pissing that bug off.
Get that thing, yo. Get that thing off of there. What is that thing?
No, but go over that way and flick them off. Flick them on
Where'd
me.
he go?
He went down here. You flicked him on me. That's the biggest bug ever.
That thing was huge.
That thing was the one that was on the tent, I believe.
Man, he was holding on.
He was, and he was bitching at you too. He was like,
Yeah, he was mad. The more flicking I was doing, the more he kept coming at me.
That thing's some kind of prehistoric creature.
Yeah, jeez. Talk about mystical being.
Funny.
That bug was pretty mystical.
It was, but yeah, you know, as far as mysticism and their ability to disappear and reappear whenever they want, personally, I think that it's possible that that they learned from Native Americans, or that Native Americans learned from them, the ability to walk silently through the forest. If you look into Native American culture, they'll tell you that they can walk silently through the forest. They're trained to do this, to be able to sneak up on their enemies. And so it's absolutely possible that the Bigfoot and their culture is able to do the same thing. And perhaps they can just move from one spot to another without being heard. They know how to duck into the trees and into the underbrush and just not be seen. So, yeah, mystical, disappearing, going into another, I don't know. If they go into another dimension, I'm more inclined to believe that they're demons. But I don't really...
And I'll say that an interesting thing, too, that you mentioned with the government.
Yes.
If they are intelligent beings and they have their own communities, they'd run into a whole nother thing. If people knew about them, people would be defending their rights. And that would limit the government's land expansion.
It would. It would limit it because people have been out there in the wild, and hunters have been out there in the wild, and they've come upon these creatures, and they've had them in their sights, in their gun sights, in their rifle sights before. And in looking at this creature through the sights, they said they just could not shoot them. And the reason was because they were too human. They just couldn't bring themselves to shoot something that looked so human. And that makes a lot of sense to me, is that, you know, I mean, if these things look like humans and, you know, they seem to walk upright and move like humans, and they have this sort of intelligence that you can see in their eyes, you're not going to shoot this thing. You're going to sit there, any decent human being is going to hesitate. And, you know, that's a good reason why the government would not want them to be found, or would not want people to know that there actually are these things living out in the wild. But if there are, I would like to think that maybe it wouldn't come and kill me immediately, and give me the chance to sort of, you know, invite it into the campfire and say, hey, come sit with us. You know, let's find a way to communicate, and let me know about your culture. I'll tell you about mine. Then we can go our separate ways. But I do have to touch on the fact that there's a guy, whether or not you hear the stories or believe the stories that this guy tells, Dixie Cryptids is a story on YouTube. It's a YouTube channel. And this guy has supposedly people that write in with all kinds of Bigfoot stories from around the country, their experiences with Bigfoot, and it's fascinating. I mean, there was even a story of a soldier, a Civil War soldier, who was wounded in a battle, and he was laying there half dead one night. And he said he heard something come into the area. He could hear it walking around, couldn't see what it was. It ended up being this Bigfoot that came in and collected him because he was one of the only people still alive in that area, and carried him back to the caves where it actually lived and existed, and took care of him, nursed him back to health. And then, when he was already nursed back to health, made sure that it covered his face so that he could never lead anybody back to where it lived, and took it back to a place where he could walk home and find his own society again. So, and there's lots of stories like that. But Dixie Cryptids, check that guy out. We like Dixie Cryptids. He's pretty cool.
Okay. That's some kind of potential activity out there in the woods.
Yeah, and the thing that's a little unsettling is that for some reason out here, oh, what just happened? There are these reflectors.
Yeah, I pointed them out actually. I went up to one on the video today, earlier.
We did.
Sure.
There's these little pinpoint reflectors. I'm not exactly sure what they are or why they're there. But for some reason, they're out there on these random trees surrounding the whole camp. Do you have any theories as to why these things might be there?
When I looked at one closer, it was almost like a button. It was loose, like you could move it around a little bit. And it was like there's a staple holding it in.
Like you could spin it?
Yeah.
What would be the point of this?
I really don't know.
Do you think they're marking these trees for some reason?
Marking them for what, though?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, maybe they're just, maybe they're marking, I mean, it's not the limits of the park, that's for sure.
No. No, because some of these trees that they've marked are like way down in the gully. Like they're way down the valley a little bit, you know?
The only thing I can think is they mark a path back up to the campsite if you get lost in the woods at night.
I don't know, because I've seen ones in random places that don't look like they would be a part of a path.
There's something.
I don't know what that was. You probably won't pick it up on video. But that sounded like a coyote.
It does.
Yeah.
Let me go walk to the edge of the campsite here and see what I can hear.
I think my flashlight is dying, yo.
It's way off in the distance, whatever it is.
It was. It was off in the distance. It did definitely sound like coyote, though.
Yeah, I still hear it.
Maybe a bird of some kind? Nocturnal bird?
Could be one of them nocturnal birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually a bird.
There's a song that talks about the whippoorwill.
It might be a whippoorwill.
And I've never heard of whippoorwill. I don't know what that sounds like. But I'm thinking that may be that bird that we heard earlier. I call it the referee bird because it sounds like it's actually saying referee, referee.
It does sound like it's saying referee, yeah.
Maybe they called it the whippoorwill.
Okay, so on the grill here, we have some pecan smoked chicken wings from Walmart. And we're thinking that if anything's going to lure Bigfoot out of the woods, it's going to be the smell of these chicken wings cooking over a wood fire. And some of you may scoff and be like, ha, Walmart chicken wings, wouldn't even lure me out of the woods. But for those of you who say that, have never tried. Now, I never condone Walmart. I'm not a big fan of Walmart by any means. I'm a Kmart person. But these pecan chicken wings,
Yeah.
they are some good stuff.
That's some good stuff right there, pecan chicken wings.
They really are. And
brown bag.
we have some sauce that I want to highlight here that I've never seen before. Okay? Now, we have two different ones. This one that I happened to grab is the Sweet Heat. It's Peggy's marinade and dipping sauce. And it's made in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And this is what I'm going to toss my chicken wings in.
It tastes better than it should be for Scranton, Pennsylvania, though.
I think Scranton, Pennsylvania is underestimated when it comes to sauce.
I don't know.
But here we also have the Parmesan and garlic. And Linda, you've had this.
I have.
And what are your thoughts on the Parmesan and garlic?
You know, it's not like most Parmesan garlic sauces. Most Parmesan garlic sauces that I've had have been just that. This is almost like a buffalo sauce, kind of mixed with the Parmesan garlic. And that's what I like about it. It's got a little bit of a different flavor to it than most of the Parmesan garlic sauces that you would normally find in the stores nowadays. Now, being that we are in some, you know, northern kind of environment, you know, maybe they do mix things with buffalo sauce a little bit more. Maybe that's normal. But when you're down in Virginia, okay, southern states, you don't find things mixed with kind of a buffalo-y sort of spicy sauce like this is. But this stuff is particularly good. This Parmesan garlic, I had it the other day. And Peggy knows what she's doing. I don't know who this Peggy lady is, but when it comes to sauces, she's actually pretty good. And you ought to try this out if you get up to a northern state and you find this Peggy's on a little end cap, kind of by itself.
It's at the Weiss Market. I'm not sure if the Weiss Markets in Virginia have it or not.
I don't know if the Weiss Markets anywhere have it except for Pennsylvania, but this place actually had it, and it's on this little kind of end cap, kind of a side cap on the end cap. But definitely try it. If you can get a hold of this stuff, definitely try it. Peggy knows what she's doing.
She does, and she doesn't sponsor us or endorse us,
no.
But we have her sauce.
Nobody else does.
Right.
We only endorse the things that we actually like.
That's exactly right.
We're only going to tell you the good stuff.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you about the bad stuff. Unless it's bad, we'll tell you it's bad.
Yeah.
So we survived the night.
We did.
The second night at Weiser State Forest. And having some coffee in the UFO cup here. Yeah. Nothing better than percolated coffee, as we said before.
Yes.
Especially by the campfire.
Yep.
But anything strange last night?
Not particularly. It was kind of quiet. You know, we heard a little bit of a noise in the wood, and Jeff ran. And
I didn't run.
But I think it was probably just that we had walked up and surprised a deer or something when we were walking back to the truck at one point. But yeah, other than that, I didn't think there was anything strange. It actually is a little bit too populated with people here, I think, for there to be any kind of Bigfoot.
I mean, there's not people for miles around, though.
No, there's not. But at the same time, you know, during the daytime, there's lots of trucks and everything going up and down the road. It seems like, you know, there's a lot of movement through here. And I'm certain that, you know, we're not the only campers that come here. There's probably campers throughout this section of the forest. And, you know, I think it's just, like I said, a little too populated, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're currently having this coffee. Take another walk down by the stream to see if there's any more imprints in the mud, and do a sweep around the perimeter of the campsite, see if anything visited us last night that we didn't see beyond the campfire glow.
Right.
All right, so I'm taking a walk through the woods here around the campsite. I'm gonna head down to that little path and start by the creek just to see if there's any imprints in the dirt around the creek, any tracks. Now this is where the path crosses, but things can cross in different areas. They can go up to the creek to get a drink. Let me see if I can't get across here. And get a view of it from the other side. Some concrete, it looks like. But there's a nice patch of mud down there, sandy mud, that something would leave a footprint in if it were to come down that way. Though I'm not sure it would cross here, but it may come in here to get a drink because there's a lower lying area right here that something could easily access the creek. And it's areas like this that we want to look for any kind of tracks. I'll just take a walk up over this ledge here. Just to kind of see there's something right there. Something was walking down. And another possible imprint there. But it could be a boot heel from a person. See, it perfectly fits a boot heel. Hopefully they weren't walking around here last night. And then just over the way here, there's another creek. And once again, yeah, we have an imprint here. But this obviously is a boot print. I think. Well, I don't know. If it was a boot print, it would have to be a heel and then another heel. I'm not sure, but we'll go ahead and mark this. And I'll pull out my trusty quarter. I don't want to use the Oklahoma one. I want the surrender to Cornwallis, or the surrender of Cornwallis one. Just because that's what's necessary for measuring tracks, right? Okay, so here we are to put it in perspective. Okay, that's what we have. And then right behind it, we have another one. I'm going to pause to take a picture. Now, I don't believe these are Bigfoot tracks by any means. You can kind of see it's almost a little irregular at the top, where it could be, although it doesn't exactly look like a bear track. There's almost, you can see little imprints inside of these, and this one you can see it better, where smaller animals seem to have stepped in this footprint. And then if we if they're crossing the creek, and go across here, and you can see over the other side, there's some more right there, where whatever this was went up the hill. I'm going to cross without interrupting these tracks here. But yeah, you can see something's definitely been crossing this creek. And I'm just going to look a little further up here to see if there's any more significant imprints. Yeah, here's something here. Okay, once again. And on this one, I can almost see what looks like a claw mark. So this could be bear. I'll have to actually compare it to the tracks chart that we have to see. But I'm going to pause to take a picture of this. And just continuing up the hill a little ways. Now this is fairly far from our campsite, but it does let us know if there was anything in these woods beyond the glow of the campfire last night. So to be 100%, I'm gonna have to compare it to the tracks chart that we have, but the closest thing I could think of that would leave a print like that would be a bear. We're going to go back and walk the trail behind our campsite and around to see if we can find any sign of anything that was lurking around our campsite last night. Okay, so here's the hill that goes up behind our campsite. And this one's pretty well covered with leaves. It did not rain last night. However, the ground is still fairly soft, so even with the leaves, we may be able to see an imprint of something stepped in the right place and had enough weight to it. I'm not sure what we're looking at right here, but it's definitely an irregular imprint in the ground. I'm going to take a picture of it. Now this one, once again, I'm not saying that it's Bigfoot by any means. I want to point out some things about it though. It could be bigger than this, because this is where the ground starts to get a little rocky. And as it stepped into the mud, you can see what looks like toes or paws. This is something significant, I think. It is a possibility that there was a rock here that was removed. I don't recall seeing that one yesterday though. It is possible that I overlooked it. But we'll keep heading up the trail here just to see what else there might be. And there's our campsite right here. And continuing down this trail, circles around the campsite. Got the ground disturbed there a little bit, but no definite tracks. That's possibly something. Well, that about does it for our perimeter check. So this trail, I would have liked to have explored it further. Even with the 2 nights we spent up here, we did most of our observing at night.
Right.
But it goes on beyond 2 creeks, and then it comes up this way and circles behind our campsite, and it looks like it comes back up towards the road.
Yeah.
Some tracks. Now, the 2 that were next to each other were right down there by the creek. We're specifically looking for something that would come up to either certain areas they would cross, or places they may come up to get a drink.
Right.
Those ones were pretty interesting.
They were. They definitely were. You know, the shortness of them kind of makes me think that it could be a bear, but at the same time, it's hard to tell, because if something made a track and then the rain came afterward, the rain washes out the track a little bit. But what's significant about the tracks that you found is that it's obviously something large and something very heavy.
Right.
Because the depressions that it created in the ground were very deep.
Right. Not Bigfoot. Weren't Bigfoot tracks by any means, but they were deep.
Yes.
Most likely bear.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'd have to compare to our track chart and see.
Right.
For sure. But I'm not classifying that as a Bigfoot track by any means.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is coming up behind our campsite here on this trail, there was that one track that you could see like the front imprint of it, and then it kind of went back towards the little rocky area.
Right.
That also could have been a bear.
It could have been, yeah.
And sometimes when bears step, if they step forward, it'll make a bigger track than an actual imprint.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But also, it was interesting the shape of that one compared to some of the other ones I saw. Now, yesterday I did see one that was similar to that down by the first creek.
Right.
Which I didn't see it today.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it was any longer there. I don't know if something walked over it or what would have happened, where it would have gone. But definitely But definitely some interesting things wandering around here at night. Something big at some point in time. We did hear some noise back here along this trail.
We did.
Perhaps that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to think what's going on out there in the darkness while we're sitting in the glow of this campfire.
Yeah, and can't see through.
But an interesting time, just the basics, just coming up here, basically camping, looking for signs in the morning, observing, seeing if we see anything, any evidence of there being a Bigfoot up here in Weiser State Forest. Definitely a cool place to camp.
It is.
Passive approach to looking for Bigfoot where we're not really looking for them. We're just kind of hanging out and seeing if we see them.
Right.
Sometimes that's the best way because it's like looking for lightning. It strikes and you got to be looking at the right place to see it.
That's exactly right.
It's like that with a ghost sighting, with a Bigfoot sighting, with a UFO sighting. You blink and you could miss it.
Exactly.
So we feel the best thing to do is just to kind of observe.
Right. And it's fun at the same time. We enjoy ourselves while we're sitting out here. And, you know, even though it's a little bit unsettling because, like you say, you can't see into the darkness around the camp.
Right.
But you never know what could be out there lurking or sitting out there watching us.
That's right. Definitely a place we want to return to.
Yeah.